Good afternoon and welcome again to the program Transforming Lives One at a Time. I am your host, Deanne, and this is part 2 in the two-part series, Protecting Our Children. In part 1, we went in depth into the operations of the Children's Authority, what steps to take if you think that a child is being abused or neglected, and how other agencies have joined in the fight to ensure that our children are well protected. Today, my guests are once again Miss Nicola Carrington. She's a team lead at the Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, Department of Child and Family Integration Services, Tobago Operations. Miss Carrington graduated with Masters in Social Work program at the University of the West Indies, and she has 14 years of work experience in social services. On set as well is Miss Shernell Gill, who graduated with Masters in Counseling and Psychology with emphasis on trauma and crisis intervention at the Caribbean Nazarene College, possessing 10 years of work experience within the social services field. Ms. Gill is also team lead at the Children's Authority Tobago Operations. Ladies, welcome again and welcome to part 2 of Protecting Our Children. How are you doing today?
I'm good today. Thank you again for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Wonderful. Well, there's a saying, when it's nice, you do it twice, huh? So I guess that is what we are doing here today. Well, we know that the Children's Authority is a child-centered, family-focused organization advocating for the rights of children. As it relates to the best environment for children to thrive in, I also know that the Children's Authority promotes family integration and placement of children in a family environment or in a more familiar environment, which is actually the ideal. But let's talk about when that is not possible. What are the next steps?
All right, so thanks for that question. So when that is not possible, we also have the option of foster care. So I'm just going to look at the different types of foster care to give the listeners what that foster care looks like. So in the first instance, we might have something called emergency foster care, and this can last up to 2 weeks. At maximum. And what happens in that emergency foster care, as the term emergency would indicate, is for those critical times when a sharp placement is needed to help that child transition. It might be going to a safe home, it might be going to a children's home, it might be going to a family member who just needs time to put things in place to receive that child. And so we would have the emergency foster care coming in at that time. And then we would have the more midterm, medium term foster care, and that can last up to 6 months. And so this provides a longer period for the child to transition within that foster care environment, that space where it's safe and creates opportunity for access interventions as well, where the child is being provided for. And then we would move on to a long-term foster care. And in this instance, this is above the 6 months. So where we have the midterm just reaching up to the 6 months mark, the long term is way over that mark. It could go in for a longer period of time, way past that 6 months mark. And so again, the same type of care is provided where the children have the access to the necessary interventions that are required. But we also have 2 other types of foster care that I also would like to pay particular attention to. And so we have the respite foster care, which looks at, and I'll explain that a bit. So we have cases where the foster care, let's say for example, the foster care may have gotten ill, or they had a family emergency, or some similar situation. What happens in the respite foster care is that the foster care will provide that care just for that interim period until the foster carer the previous foster carer is back on their feet and able to receive that child back in their care again, because sometimes the foster parents also need that level of support in providing care. And then of course there's the kinship foster care. And what happens with this type of foster care, so within Trinidad and Tobago, there's the normal fashion of whether auntie
Yes.
would take care of the child or uncle or grandparent. And sometimes the child is so integrated within that family that you wonder, well, who's the mommy or who's the
Right.
daddy? Because, it's
Yes.
so fully integrated. But with the kinship foster care, what happens is that they're trying to place the child with a family member because, as you would have mentioned, it's so important to have the child settle within their own families.
Yes.
And where that doesn't happen, the other types of foster care could come in, but that is also one of the first options that we will look at, having that kinship foster care working for the child where a family member comes in and provide that level
Right.
of care for the child.
Understood. Anything you want
And
to add?
well, yes, foster care is something that we really want to encourage more persons to take part of in Tobago. It's something that we really have on our agenda right now to promote because we understand that the culture that we have in Tobago is a little bit, family oriented. So we
Yes.
have a lot of kinship care, foster care. So we are urging persons, to reach out, and participate in the foster care program.
And we will do some more about that when we
Yes.
speak on
Yes.
sensitization about foster care, but that's just to give you a little intro of
Right.
what the foster care is about.
Right, right. Well, let's get a bit more on the foster care. I mean, we just touched on it slightly, but
Yeah.
in the scheme of things, just how does that function in Trinidad and Tobago? Firstly, explaining exactly what is foster care, because sometimes you would hear the term and you have an idea, but we want to bring some clarity.
All right, so foster care is really intended to be a temporary living arrangement for the child and placing the child in that loving and caring environment. But as I would have mentioned with the different types of foster care that I explained, depending on what are the needs of the child, it could range from emergency all the way to long term. And of course, the kinship foster care will also be a long term type of placement happening. And with foster care, and in terms of that loving home, it could be a home where it has two parents, which is a married couple. The couple could also be common law. It doesn't have to be a couple. It could be a single person. A person could be divorced. So it is where that family or where that person could provide the type of help and suited care that particular child needs. And as I now remember, one of the foster care that I forgot to mention, it was the specialist type of foster care, which would deal with those children who have other needs. And so it might be children with that are differently able.
Right.
It might be children who have behavioral challenges or mental health challenges that need a specific type of intervention and care that is meted out to them. And so we also have the specialist type of foster carers. But so moving back now to the type of persons, and that's why I was mentioning whether it's single,
Yes.
common law, married, they also go through that vetting process.
Yes.
By our teams and to be able to access that they're able to manage what these children are coming with, what they're dealing with. Because remember, we're dealing with children that have gone through and experienced trauma.
Yes.
And so we have to have persons that understand how to treat with children that have experienced those type of things.
Right. Yeah, and in terms of the whole foster care, is there like a support system? Because now we have persons taking children into their homes. What kind of support? Because you now have, maybe you might have had two persons at the home, both are working. Now we have this child here. How does that work?
All right, and it's similar to how a family would work in terms of coordinating your times. Okay, so I would do pick up this at this particular time, or my work finishes at this time, and so you're able to pick up. And remember, because we're trying to create that family type environment, it's the same type of functions and
Right.
roles and responsibilities that would happen in any regular family. And so apart from pickup times, we might have the children in different activities. So who's dropping the child to swim in?
Okay.
Who is taking the child when we go for visitation? they might have other siblings, you know, these type of things. So it's really a family-oriented environment, and the same roles and routines would be similar in the regular family setting.
And also, it's not that they will just pick persons and just place a child. So there is a process of training and screening that takes place. So the persons are provided with some level of counseling, some level of preparation before the child is actually placed in their care. So in some instances, I know some foster care may even receive some level of financial support, but all of that it's on a case-to-case basis.
Right,
but,
understood.
Yes, but
because you don't want to really put that out there, so persons would now say, oh, so I can get. We know how
so
that works.
in addition, what I would like to add is that in terms of the whole screening process, there's a medical certificate that applicant would have to go through. There's also the police certificate, a character that applicant would have to go through. So, you know, there's a screening process in place that helps to really deal with who this person is that wants to provide this level of care. Also required will be 2 forms of ID. So we have so we are able to do background checks.
Right.
So we're not saying yes, we want persons to become foster carers, but we also want the right type of persons to become foster carers, because we have to be so careful with the safety of these children. Remember, they have already been through trauma-related incidences. You don't want to now place them in an environment that also compromises their safety. So it's a thorough process in terms of assessing who comes on board. And of course, the team provides that level of support for the foster parents. So they don't just come, they go through the process, we go through the integration phase with the families, and just leave them alone. They're still there to provide that level of support. And similarly, like regular families, if there's a need for additional parenting support for whatever reason, just to be able to strengthen the skills that they do have, that level of support is also provided.
So what I'm hearing is that there is a very strong support system offered by the Children's Authority for foster carers.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I would also like to add that this person also submits references. So persons that can vouch for their character. So so it's not to say John Doe could come and say, yes, I want to be a foster parent, and we go ahead and say, yes, John Doe, we are so glad that you're able to come on board, and we do no kind of background checks whatsoever, maybe, and because John Doe is able to, on the flip side, once John Doe is able to provide those references, it says that John Doe also has a support system that can also help in any, and I mean, again, it's like regular families. So today I might have a presentation at the end of work, and so I call a trusted friend. I'm going to have a babysitter for the kids because I'm not going to be able to be at home, and so there's that level of support as well. So I mean, it's thorough in terms of the assessment to onboard persons coming in.
Right, and what I'm also hearing is a great level of transparency. So we know exactly from the time the person puts in the application, you, as it were, you get a whole readout on that individual to know exactly where you are placing this child or children, because at the end of the day, it's a safety and protection of the children. And as you indicated earlier, for some of these children, they have been through a lot of trauma already. So you don't want to compound matters by placing them into the wrong care.
That's right.
Definitely. Well, I want to shift gears just a bit and talk a little bit about adoption. I mean, we've heard adoption, we've heard it, but I think many persons are not really fully aware of all the areas that it comprises. All right, so we want to talk about that a bit. And then for someone who is interested in adopting a child, what are the qualifications needed? Do you need to be married, a citizen of the country? Well, obviously employed. So walk us through that step by step.
So adoption In simple terms, it's basically the transfer of parental rights from, it could be the biological parent or even like a previously adopted parent to another individual. So the rights of the parent is transferred to another person, and in that case, the individual, it's more towards promoting long-term stay and a family-oriented setting. So you asked them whether the person has to be a citizen.
Yes.
So no, the person, they can be a resident of Trinidad and Tobago, but they may not have to be a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. So once they're above the age of 18, so the regulations would have changed in such a way to, widen its remit. So we have persons, once you're above the age of 18, and it's not biased towards gender, it's not biased towards the younger person, so they can now apply to be an adoptive parent. But notwithstanding the opening of the age group and the gender and stuff like that, we still have the background checks, we still have a range of steps that the person has to complete in the application process, ensuring that they have the same police certificate, they have to submit all of the applications, and they need to complete, it's more like a psychosocial investigation. All of that has to be completed. So once that process is completed, then we have the application submitted, and we have this person listed as a tentative adoptive parent.
What kind of time frame on an average from the time the application goes in? What kind? A year, 6 months?
What I would like to say, the time frame is dependent on the applicant's response, like how they submit the documents and the time frame that they take to complete the application process.
Okay.
Hence the reason we started, looking at the steps from after they submitted the complete package. But I cannot put a set time frame on the adoption process, because we know in the adoption process there are 3 stakeholders. That would be the adoptive parent, that is the child, the adoptee, and we have the biological parents. Right. They are also a part of the process. So the adoption cannot take, unless the judge or the magistrate or different person says otherwise, the transfer of parental rights cannot happen if the biological parent is not willing to relinquish their rights as a parent.
And as Nicola mentioned, that one of the things that I would also add to that is that the adoption process can be open or it can be a closed process. And so open in the sense where the biological parents still want to be able to have that kind of interaction with the child. As a matter of fact, sometimes, depending on the situations that happen, the child may already be living with this person. Remember, sometimes the person that is applying might be very well a family member.
Right.
Because remember, within the Caribbean region, we have families that have been taking care of children, and sometimes adoption just wants to make it legal. I want you to know that I want you in our family. I mean, it happened for a number of reasons, and so they going through that process of how we are going to create this open space in terms of any type of visitation, any type of phone calls, and having an agreement of what that will look like. And then, of course, with the closed cases is where that is not facilitated at all. So I don't know if you want to speak further a little bit more on what the closed.
All right, but just before we do that, we're going to take a short break and we will come back with that. Just stick a pin right there. Viewers, this is Transforming Lives One at a Time. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
If you're wondering where to find top-tier quality tiles and products to refurbish or renovate your wall, floor or pool, well, your worry is over. Come to D-Cell's Tile and Ceiling Center, Store Bay Local Road, opposite the Bonnecourt Primary School, Tobago, where you will find porcelain, mosaic and ceramic tiles of the highest quality guaranteed. D-Cell's Tile and Ceiling Center also stocks thinset, grout, tile cutters, and yes, windows. Plus a friendly smile and service that's second to none awaits you. So forget the hassle and get all the quality tiles you need right here in Tobago at D-Cell's Tile and Ceiling Center. Call us today at 460-8802, 639-8281. Opens Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m.
Do you need electrical and plumbing supplies from construction to finish? Then check out Voodoo's Enterprises Limited, Milford Road, Canaan, Tobago. Get LED bulbs and fixtures, septic tanks, water pumps, laminate flooring, press cut power tools, and so much more. Open Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. Call 280-2050 or 660-4970. Voodoo's Enterprises Limited. Welcome back, viewers. We're doing Transforming Lives One at a Time. The topic for today, protecting our children. Well, just before the break, we were talking a bit about adoption, and we were talking about closed adoption, open adoption. Let's just continue in that vein.
So the closed adoption is where the family have never met the child before, and in filling out their application form, they may have highlighted that, hey, I have a preference for teenagers, or I have a preference for a younger child. Sometimes some persons may even put gender on the application form. So in this instance, they do not know, they have not met the adoptee, they have not met the biological parents. So for this case, once it's a closed adoption, they adopt this child, the child moves into their home, and there's no contact. Okay. So there's no contact with the child to the parents, or with the adopted parents to the biological parents. So this one, I know a lot of persons may say, hey, this one sounds like, it's clear-cut, straightforward, yes, and they prefer this scenario. And it, on paper, yes, it does sound like it's, the way to go. But in those instances, it's the process, I wouldn't say that the process is longer or shorter if it's open or closed, right. But we do know that we're dealing with human beings. Sometimes in the open cases where the parent is still involved, you may have, some other issues that you may have to work out along the way while the parent is still involved. Yes. And it's a situation where you get the intervention one time while you're working with the child, and the child is growing in your care. So throughout the probationary period and different things like that, you're able to tap into the resources of the authority. You would have an idea as to, the background of the child, different dispositions, all of that sort of helps you in working along for the best interest of the child. And when it's a closed adoption, you don't have any. So it's more of, you're learning and as right. You grow along with the child. So you would have received this child into your care, and now you really and truly are getting to see them in your space, in your home environment, and you are learning from the scratch. Right. And to me, that is an exciting experience,
I'm thinking that.
Yeah, and so what I was saying as well is that we also do monitoring, because Nicola was speaking about the probationary period, and during that period, there's a monitoring to see how, and this happens both for foster care as well as adoption, in terms of seeing how that integrating is happening, how the communication is happening, how the bonding and the gelling is happening with the child and the prospective parent. And it's also important that have that monitoring after, because you don't just want a case where it seems as if everything is good and stable and secure, and we leave it alone, provide no additional follow-up, and then there's potential fallout or potential for placement breakdown. So there's a continuous monitoring, and there will be time for cutoff, because we're able to see that this is stable, but of course the support where needed is still very much there.
Right. Let's talk about the ages in terms of adoption, because sometimes persons would say, well, I want a little tiny baby to have the whole experience, especially for persons who are not mothers, biological mothers, I should say. What are the ages that most persons would gravitate to have a child in adoption?
And as you said, a lot of persons, they are interested in babies. So we have a lot of requests coming in for babies. They want a young little baby boy or a baby girl, and usually all the range from like 0 years to 5 years, that is the most popular age. So they want someone who is younger, who they believe that they can mold and shape into, someone that they want to be a part of their family. And most of those cases we have babies that are in the hospital, and then we have questions where why isn't this person up for adoption, different things like that. But in many instances we still have the parents involved.
Okay.
And we can't just take a step to just say we're placing this child up for adoption without the parents relinquishing their rights as parents. So it's very technical in a sense where the lawyers, they definitely have to work extra hard and to show a lot of evidence in order for anything like that to take place, where I think it would have to be special instances where somebody has to receive some sort of medical treatment, different things like that, and they may have to go abroad and stuff like that. But usually if the person is here and you have the mother is visiting the child, the mother, they're not in the position to provide care for the child at the point in time, they're not relinquishing their rights.
Right.
So in a case like that, the child may become a candidate for foster care, because in that instance, the mother will still want to visit, they still want to have that access to the child, and they in themselves, they are not ready to give up, the possibility.
Rights.
Yeah, they're not ready to give up their rights as a parent. So in those instances, we have a lot of young children, we could say from months to 5 years, and they would be in the system.
Yes.
And at that age, we would always say that's the ripe age for adoption, because that is the age where they're still learning, they're still developing certain skills, and they're a bit more malleable, and they're able to fit into different cultures and different family setting. And then we have the not so popular, the teenagers.
Yes.
A lot of persons, they are not drawn towards the teenagers, because as we know, teenage comes with some
its own challenges.
Yes, its own challenges, and you require a different level of skills to parent teenagers.
Yeah.
So a lot of persons, they're starting the process for the first time, and they are honest with themselves. They are aware that they do not have that level of skill.
Okay.
They don't know how to treat with the going to adolescence. They're not sure how to deal with the puberty, how to deal with when girls are interested with boys. They don't know how to treat with the different things that come with teenagers. And it's not just the challenging behaviors, just in simple parenting a teenager who is at the point where they understand that, hey, you are not my biological mother.
Right.
And they may be more vocal.
Yes, of course.
They may be more vocal. So things like that, it deters persons from, gravitating towards that group. But I want to urge persons, to have a open mind and an open mind, and to still see the possibility in providing care to this age group.
And as you spoke about having an open mind, because it's a whole adjustment period for both the parents as well as the child, and that's where intervention comes in. You spoke a lot about hope, and that is where intervention comes in to help both parties be able to understand that this is a process. I'm not going to automatically, as a teenager, forget that I have a birth mother, and that adoptive parent is going to have to make allowances for that process and understanding how that child is transitioning, and being able to acknowledge, yes, I have a birth mother and a birth father, and my initial family situation may not have worked out ideally, but I also have an opportunity to belong to a family that loves me and wants to provide for me and wants to take care of me. And so it's a whole adjustment process, and that's where intervention comes in to help with the whole adjustment transition for the family.
Yes.
Right, yes. That is a lot to adjust. a lot. But let's talk a little bit about, let's say you have a child living with family members, and one parent is interested in putting the child for adoption, but the other parent doesn't. What happens there? Because you know that the child is not being cared for in the way that the child should. So a family member would have stepped in, taken the child under their wings, and now they're looking for the next step, because you have one that you don't want that child to get too attached to you, and then the mother or the father says, okay, I'm taking back the child now after years of being. So what happens there? What do you do?
And these are some of the gray areas that we will encounter on a daily basis. So we have situations like this occurring throughout, some of the cases in Tobago. So most of those cases, they become very good candidates for kinship foster care. Because as I would have mentioned earlier, we cannot proceed with the adoption process unless the parents, they relinquish their rights legally. So in those instances, we would have a lot of back and forth and bickering among family members. And in order to just reduce the level of tension, that's where we bring in mediation, we have the counseling sessions, and many times it results in the kinship foster care. So in those instances, the child has the opportunity to build bonds with the mother, the father, but they still remain under the care of the family member who wants to provide that care to them. And I know sometimes it could be heartbreaking when you think about the possibility that I could have poured all my love into this person and all my dedication, and then they may or may not return to the biological parents. But that is where the hope comes in. That is where the trust comes in, to know that you would have instilled certain qualities, certain things. Because at the end of the day, it is not necessarily just about how you feel about the situation, it's about the best interest of the child. So
understood.
We all have we have a right to belong. We all have a right to a family. And the child has a right to have access to their biological family at the same time, but they have a right to be loved, and the love that they're receiving from the family member, that will help them to kind of deal with some of the other issues that they may encounter with dealing with the biological parents. Because sometimes they know that, a lot more can be done by the parents, and they want that. But as they grow and they access counseling, they access activities, they engage with their peers, they come to a point where, they start understanding, this is what mommy and daddy was going through, this is probably, and they have a sense of understanding that, hey, I'm more appreciative of auntie. I'm more appreciative of what she sacrificed and what she would have endured to be that source of constant strength as we went through all of the different stages along the way.
Understood. But one thing I want to ask there, as you said, so the adoption in terms of a parent not giving up their parental rights, fine. So if it is that you do the foster care, is that like a legal and binding?
Yeah, so the foster,
in a case like that,
so the foster care will also has its conditions, and so with the foster caring, as Nicola would have mentioned, the parents still have access to the child, but the foster care is just term of foster care. It now that person becomes a legal guardian for the child, and so in this case, the parent have not given up any parental rights, but they have understood and have agreed that the child will be placed in foster care. And so that's why in terms where parents don't want to be a part of an open adoption where they will still have access to the child, foster care is a better suited option, because they don't have to give up the parental rights, and the foster care understands that they are the middleman, being able to provide that level of support and care for the child in the interim.
And also the parents can't just step in and say that I'm taking my child once we're going through the process, because
they become legal guardians.
They become legal guardians, so the parents can't just step in and say I'm taking my child just like that. The parents have to go through a process to show that they are fit and they're in a position to provide the care for their children.
And for reintegration to occur.
It's a process.
Right.
Understood.
Because remember, ideally, foster caring is supposed to be a temporary process because you
Right.
want to reintegrate
Yes.
with the families.
Right.
You want to work with families so that children could go back to their families. It doesn't always happen like that, and so that's where
Right.
long-term foster care will come in.
Right.
But it's hope that through the interventions and persons getting the necessary support and help that they need, that
Right.
we can reintegrate
Understood.
children with their families.
So ultimately, that is the goal, to reintegrate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not to break up families, to
Nope.
reintegrate.
Yeah.
But of
Yes.
course, we have to look at what is in the best interest
Interest
of the child.
Yeah, and sometimes where it's not even possible to reintegrate, that's where these different options will also come in as
Yeah.
well.
Right, wonderful, wonderful. I tell you, this kind of information, and because I really needed us to bring clarity, because many times you would hear different terms, you would hear about this, and one person may tell you this, but there is nothing like getting the professionals, the people who know exactly what is taking place, to be able to come and to be able to share the information so the public could now have that information, because the more you are informed, you are better able to perform. So this is very, very vital information that is going out here on protecting our children. Well, I want to talk about as well, before we wrap things up, because of course we know this is the second part, I would like you both to share on some general tips that children can implement in their daily interactions. Safety tips.
Well, I know, children, we put some of the responsibility of, learning these tips on the parents. So
Yes.
we can teach children how to develop healthy boundaries. So you teach them about
Okay and not okay,
and not
touches.
okay touches.
Right, yes,
and
I actually
yes.
had that next, but we
Okay.
could go with that.
So, and boundaries in that, we have some children, they see someone for the first time and they run up to that person and they hug that person. And it's about learning boundaries, about observing the environment and observing the different persons around them. And, just paying attention to, hey, this person is looking at me, just to be more observant to where persons are, if somebody is trying to, we spoke about grooming.
Yes.
And we spoke about how they come with they give you compliments and they are going on and on about this particular feature of a child. They may be saying, oh, you are so beautiful, over and over, and there. So if it's a case where a child is feeling uncomfortable in a situation like that, to develop boundaries, to learn to say, okay, and, tell a parent about it,
Yes.
tell a family member about it, not to sit and to be in a situation where, they sit in the discomfort and they never really say anything about it. And even in cases where the family may be in need and they observe situation where the adult is coming to the child to talk about certain situation,
Yes.
the parent will, let them know that, hey, there are certain conversations that an adult should not be coming to you.
Inappropriate.
Yeah, inappropriate. Let them come to me. So different things like that. So we don't want situation where children are parentified, they feel like they should have big person's conversation.
Right.
They understand that, hey, with this conversation there are certain expectations and I will refer you to my parents because
Yes.
that is not a conversation I want to have with you. And it's to have, we instill some, what you call it? We instill a sense of pride in our children. We speak to them in positive language
Yes.
and all of that. So their self-esteem, their self-worth is at a point where they don't look for it from other persons
Yes,
outside of the
you have
family. Because
affirmations.
yes, the positive affirmations. You fill your child with so much positivity that in an instance where they are not an easy target.
Right.
They are not an easy target for
Yes.
certain things. And that is something that will help them as they go along, because what you feed and pour into your child, it is on display when they go out into the school.
Yes,
So
definitely.
yes, so most of the things that children can do is stuff that they would have learned from you because they learn what they live.
Right, indeed. Well, we're going to take a short break, our final break, and we will be right back. We'll hear from Miss Gill when we come back. Stay with us.
If you're wondering where to find top-tier quality tiles and products to refurbish or renovate your wall, floor or pool, well, your worry is over. Come to DCell's Tile and Ceiling Center, Store Bay Local Road, opposite the Bonnecourt Primary School, Tobago, where you will find porcelain, mosaic and ceramic tiles of the highest quality guaranteed. DCell's Tile and Ceiling Center also stocks thinset, grout, tile cutters and yes, windows. Plus a friendly smile and service that's second to none awaits you. So forget the hassle and get all the quality tiles you need right here in Tobago at DCell's Tile and Ceiling Center. Call us today at 460-8802, 639-8281. Opens Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m.
Do you need electrical and plumbing supplies from construction to finish? Then check out Voodoo's Enterprises Limited, Milford Road, Canaan, Tobago. Get LED bulbs and fixtures, septic tanks, water pumps, laminate flooring, Prescott power tools, and so much more. Open Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. Call 280-2050 or 660-4970. Voodoo's Enterprises Limited. Welcome back to the program Transforming Lives One at a Time. My guest, Ms. Nicola Carrington and Ms. Shernell Gill. Well, just before the break, we were talking about some safety tips that our children can implement in their daily interactions. So, Ms. Gill, just...
All right, so continuing on that vein of stranger danger, one of the things that we also want to look at in terms of safety for children that we could teach them is to understand what is our emergency contacts. Should something happen, we need to get in contact with mommy, or we need to get in contact with daddy, or we need to call the ambulance, something happened at home with mommy. What is the emergency plan? So those are some the tips that we want to have, who we call in case of an emergency. As well, we also want to teach the children what is not okay and what is okay touches.
Yes.
And so you want the children to be able to understand what their body parts are and who is able to do what level of comfort that is and discomfort. You know, sometimes somebody comes over and you say, give Auntie Nicola a kiss, but the child doesn't want to give Auntie Nicola a kiss. Oh gosh, give Auntie Nicola a kiss now. And you know, we're seeing these type of things, but we don't want to force the children to do something that they're not comfortable doing. And so apart from letting them know the significant areas of their bodies that are not okay to touch, it might be okay if mommy and daddy are giving you a bath, but if there's anything uncomfortable, I want you to be able to bring this to mommy and daddy's attention, even with mommy and daddy, so that they are aware that even mommy and daddy have to be accountable for how they touch them and what is appropriate and what is not appropriate for them. And so, you know, those are some of the tips in terms of the children.
Yes, wonderful
and
tips.
I also want to add, a lot of parents, some of them, they don't use the correct term for the different parts of the body. We urge parents to use the correct...
Especially long time.
Yes, you know,
they will call all sorts of names and you have to let them know the correct...
Yes, let them know the correct...
It may seem funny,
right,
but it is it's a serious it's a serious concern.
Yes, it is.
Yes, I totally agree, 100%. Well, let's talk about how can the Children's Authority foster more meaningful partnerships with other stakeholders as we continue to tackle the issue of child abuse.
So I know over the past few years we would have been, you know, collaborating with a lot of other agencies. So we work with the police and we have been reaching out. We have been working with the Division of Health. We have been working with the Student Support Services. We also participate in case conferencing and different activities that you know, allows us to sit as colleagues and exchange ideas and, you know, gather information as to how we could work together as a team to, you know, ensure that the children are dealt with appropriately. Yes. So that is one of the measures that we would have used over the years. So it's more of a, you know, collaborative approach, because we're not just looking at, yes, we would have removed the child from imminent danger, and then what?
Yeah.
we still need to work with the family, because as we would have mentioned before, reintegration is ideally the goal. So in order to ensure that the family is in a better position to receive this child back into care, it means that the family must be provided with certain resources. They must be connected to adequate housing, food, and opportunities to improve their financial situation. So this would have this urged us to, reach out to more NGOs, different governmental organizations, and, to case conference, to just dialogue and to be on the same page to ensure that we are all working towards, building a better home environment for this child to, facilitate reintegration.
Yes.
And so what we also want to do is we want to also continue those sensitizations, those joint sensitizations with these different stakeholders. We also want to continue to be a part of their workshop. So one of our other stakeholders is the Child and Adolescent Clinic. And so once they're hosting a workshop, come and be a part, have a booth, be able to speak about who is Children Authority and what they do, and vice versa. We invite them. And this is the type of collaboration that we want to have. We also want to go deeper, having those memorandums of understanding as we build partnership in terms of pathway for services for the nation's children. I mean, so we are on a continuous path of developing ourselves and working with the stakeholders.
Yeah.
Yes, that constant and continuous collaboration is key, because as we continue to grow as a society, we always have different issues coming up that we will always need to stay on top of. We'll always have to keep on top of. I want to talk about some effective measures our parents, our teachers, those persons that have, that constant interaction with our children, what they can implement to provide that added layer of protection for our children.
But in the school setting, I would say that being alert. So we spoke about the physical signs of abuse. And while children, they go to school every day, teachers, they spend more time with the children sometimes than the parents. And they are in a position where they are observing whether it's punctuality, the tardiness, they're observing that the child is coming to school hungry, the child may be coming to school looking unkempt, and the teacher is one of the key persons. They would observe this. They would observe that, this child is very, they are displaying certain behaviors that they would have learned at home, and you're a bit concerning. And it's not, when we move beyond alert is more than just observing and then putting it at the back of your mind. Right. Observing is you see the behavior, you observe the behavior, and you take an action.
Okay.
You report it to the principal, and then you report it to Children's Authority. As we mentioned, you can contact the registry, and you provide information. You can you do not have to reveal your identity, and you provide as much information as possible, because you are in this setting with the child on a day-to-day basis. Right. You are observing these things, and it's to highlight it, to sort of start the process.
So is it that a teacher observing what has been happening, many of them may think maybe I should call in the parents, or maybe I should. What do you suggest?
Sometimes so there are instances where you call in the parents, and they do have the parent-teacher meeting where they would have highlighted things to the parents, and if it's certain things that is not, the child is not in imminent danger. So if, for instance, you observe that the child has a burn, and the child would have explained to you that, hey, mommy, put my hand over the stove and burn. Right. So that you definitely reported something like that. Definitely. Yes. Or you may observe the markings and the swelling on the hand from, say, the parent would have used a cord or something like that to, beat the child. Something like that, you definitely have to report. In some instances we always say that poverty is not an excuse for removing children. So in cases where it's poverty, we work with the families to improve the
necessary resources.
Yeah, the necessary resources. So in a case like that, the child may be coming to school looking unkempt and different things like that because they probably don't have a machine, they probably don't have access to the detergent to wash clothes, different things like that. So in the conversation that the teacher would have with the parent first, they would then know, hey, we can bring in the school social worker. Okay. Because there is a school social worker in this scenario. And they would then connect them to different resources and stuff like that. If it's a situation that you are clearly seeing signs of abuse, then that is where you contact the authority and you provide that information. So it's 800-2014 or 996.
Right. And of course, you can also get us at our registry at ttchildren.org. But I want to note in terms of the parents and some tips for the parents. So you want to watch out for if you're seeing cutting marks on your children's hands. Self-harm. You want to be able to find out what is happening, because in order for them to be self-cutting, something has to be there that is happening. And so you also want to look at their patterns of behavior. Is this child becoming withdrawn, keeping to themselves? What is happening here? And we also spoke about keeping those channels of communication open. We want to pay attention to social media. What are they accessing? Who are they talking to? Are they making arrangements? Are we checking their cell phones?
Wow. Are we checking their book bags?
Exactly. You know, so these are some of the things that we also want to know. We want to speak about disciplinary measures. What are the alternate ways that you can discipline to help children understand the message of this is the correct way that I want you to go and I want to shape you. And so all of these are things that we can look at when we speak about tips for parents.
And one thing I wanted to mention too, in line with parents. So when you see your child coming home with gifts and different things like that, that is something to pay attention to. Of course. Because you do know that in the process of grooming, they give you gifts, they give you items. So that is something to pay attention to. So if you know your daughter is coming home with a makeup set and mommy or daddy or auntie, nobody gave, they did not purchase, or nor did they give them the money to purchase the item. Jewelry, the different, you see them come home with
clothing
items that were not provided by anyone anybody came out and said that they purchased that item. Sometimes because they're secretive about it, they will not want to tell you who it's from.
Certainly.
Yes,
certainly.
And sometimes it could be upright inappropriate items that they're coming home with, and things that goes against say you would have told the child you're not ready for a cell phone, or you're not ready for this, or you're not ready, and then you see the child show up with that same item that
ask a question. So we are hearing that parents and guardians, teachers, principals across the board, we have to be more vigilant. We have to take a closer eye, because especially as it relates to social media and so many things. And we didn't even get into, and our time is quickly approaching, but we didn't even get into some of those secret codes that these children use when parent is standing by and those kind of things. I mean, sometimes we know be right back, but not BRB, be right back. But there are certain codes that if your parent is there, they will say, they will just send a code, and the parents many times are not even aware. Mommy is standing by, they would send something for that. So we didn't even get to explore that area, but those are areas as well that we have to take a closer look. And I think that will come in with the parenting seminars and that kind of thing. So I really would like to encourage parents to pay much more attention, and I'm speaking right into the camera. Anytime I have to, say something super serious, but we have to realize that we cannot do it alone, and that we need to be a part of training seminars, symposiums, whatever information that we can get, so we can be the best possible parents that we can be. Because remember, we are training our little ones to be someone else's spouse, someone else's dad, someone else's uncle, and we have to do our part. The information is there, clearly the information is there, but I think one more thing as we bring the curtains down. What is a key takeaway you would like to leave with our viewers as it relates to protection of our children? Because we have, as we close the second part, we have spoken about so many different areas, I don't know if you can come with one key, but let's try this.
Well, it's a normal key that we have all the time. Child protection is everybody's business. We're partnering with stakeholders, we're partnering with community members, we're partnering with family members, we're partnering with schools. There's so many people we partner with, and so we can't help but to see that child protection is everybody's business. So if we want to leave a message, that is the message that we want to leave. Stay alert and inform us where there's need to, and we've already provided our contact information.
Yes,
but
we'll
just
do the contact again. Yes.
just to note, that is 800-2014 or 996, or you can reach us at our email registry@ttchildren.org.
And do you have like a website that persons can go in and get all this information? Because I have here, and I don't, my cameraman could probably zoom in terms of, I have some pamphlets on foster care and of course on adoption, so that you can be able to really read up and get all the necessary information that you need if you're possibly thinking of doing an adoption or becoming a foster carer. Okay, so
yes, we do have a website, and so
that is www.ttchildren.org. And so once you
just repeat that again.
So that's www.ttchildren.org. And once you go online, you type in Children's Authority, the information comes up right there, how to contact us, who we are, what we're about, the different pieces of legislation that we would have spoke about in part one of this series.
Yes,
I mean, everything is there.
And that is commendable, because when I was getting ready for this interview, I went on the site and I'm like, wow, all these questions, all this information, and we really need to get persons to know and to come on to get all the information that you need as it relates to children's care, as it relates to so many things that affect our children.
Yes.
You were saying?
Well, I just wanted to touch on what my colleague here was saying. You know, we are in the business of protecting children, and we really are looking at things from the strengths perspective at this point. We're focusing on hope. We're focusing on, yes, there's a hope for a better tomorrow. Many things would have happened. Children would have experienced different negative things as they will, you know. Nobody asks for these things to happen, but we are here working with the children, and it is not just our business, it's everybody's business. And we want to work together and, you know, continue with that hope. So whether it is we're working with babies or we're working with teenagers, we want to give it the same drive, the same push, because we know at the end of the day, we are not just in it for the individual cases. We are looking at the betterment of the society. Yes. And one child at a time, you know, we're able to make a difference out there in the community.
Definitely, definitely. So what is the mantra?
Child protection.
Yes.
Child protection is everyone's business.
Child protection is everyone's business. And this is how we wrap up part 2 of the program Transforming Lives One at a Time. At this time, I want to sincerely thank you two beautiful ladies, Miss Nicola Carrington and Miss Shernell Gill, both team leads at the Children's Authority Tobago operations, for giving us such pertinent information, for bringing clarity, for making everything so clear as to what the Children's Authority does here in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to say thank you as you continue to fight for our precious children, as you continue in your own sphere of influence to transform lives one at a time. I want to encourage you and the team at Children's Authority to continue doing what you are doing. Just in case no one encouraged you today, I want you to be encouraged. You are making an impact, you are changing and transforming lives, and I want you all to continue doing it in spite of the obstacles. So take our greetings back to the entire office, and this is where we wrap things up for today. You can feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe on all our media platforms. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. As we go, remember, transformation is an internal shift that brings us into alignment with our fullest potential. I am your host, Deanne. Hey, we've got this. See you next time.